Hello and welcome to the Rask Network. What you're about to hear and see is limited to general financial information only. Please be sure to speak to your financial planner or refer to our financial services guide available at rask.com.au/FSG before acting on the information.
Welcome back to the Australian Business Podcast. Today I am joined by Jordan in Melbourne, the studio. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. And we have a special guest today as well.
Hi, hey guys, how you doing?
Good. Sonam, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. I'm now officially literate in the world of podcasts, so I think I'm ready.
For sure. I know we were having a laugh before. There's 4 flights of stairs and you chose to run up the stairs.
I did. I also
The lift.
Yeah, I also cycled in, so I just doubled down on it. So luckily I wore deodorant today.
Thank God for that.
A couple of deep breaths. Cool. Well, to kick things off, do you want to kind of paint a bit of a picture for us and for our listeners in terms of your journey with Golden Brown Coffee and what you guys are kind of doing now? I know you've kind of shifted into a slightly different space.
Yeah, I will do. So the whole backstory behind Golden Brown actually starts a long time ago, before time itself. Now, in the early 2010s, there was the specialty wave that took over Melbourne and then eventually took over the rest of the world. And I actually was lucky enough to meet my business partner there. So we were working in a cafe in Abbotsford called 3 Bags Full. It was the trendy spot at the time. I knew his older sister. He asked her for a job. I got him the job. I quickly met Rowan, who's my business partner now. About halfway through a shift making coffee, we became best friends. And it was easy. And there was a lifelong bond connected from there. What happened was we both went our separate ways over the time. Things happened. You start other businesses. I started a family. Rowan moved to the States, quite prolific advertising career. And then COVID hit, pretty much a very similar story to everyone else. We then get back together. We're like, hey, let's put both of our powers together and let's see what we can do. And let's rekindle over a shared love of coffee. So that started with an online coffee roastery called Golden Brown. And seeing as everyone was brewing at home at the time, we decided to specialize in home brewing. Home brewing required a special coffee, so a coffee that was lower density, also easier to grind for that reason, and also needed to be better across all milks. So you're looking at your regular milks, alternative milks, skinny milks, whatever milk someone wanted to have, but then it also needed to work black as well. And then it needed to work on a $200 grinder or a $400 grinder, et cetera, et cetera. And so that was like the unique selling point at the start. But to get the message across, we started making videos, and the videos we started to make on short form content, in particular TikTok, started to go really well. And there was this one day where Rowan and I were at the pub and we put together a video about how to tamp coffee properly. And you guys know the process of tamping coffee. You put it on the bench, you tamp it, then you put it in. And it was still relatively young in the time of TikTok. You know, whenever I told my friends, hey, we're going to focus on TikTok to launch this business, everyone's like, you're an idiot. Like, you know, that's for kids, that's for dancing. Like, what are you doing? We're like, well, we'll be the first to market, and we were the first to market, and we are the first still realistically. We're one of the top coffee content creators in the world across the whole world in terms of all channels now, which is quite amazing.
That's huge.
And I was talking to you guys just before about the dopamine hit. That first video hit 5.5 million views. And as we were just watching it go up, we had to find a plug to charge Rowan's phone. It's because the numbers and the metrics were just like, what is happening? Let's get this quick, get to the wall. And so we started charging the phone, and the dopamine hits was so hard. And I'm not saying we're addicted to it or anything like that, but what we found from that video was we got 20,000 new followers. So you can imagine that across everywhere.
Huge.
And then what that's now led to is we've got a social media agency that specializes in food and bev, and in particular coffee. So we're across larger coffee brands and coffee machine manufacturers. So you think about your Breville's, your Lamazocos, we work with them all. And then now I'm here today. And, you know.
Walk us through it's interesting because we've got the coffee business and there's like that marketing side of things with that video content. Walk us through that second business that we spoke about before we jumped on air.
Yeah, I suppose the best way to kind of walk you through it is maybe look at what happens in a week.
Yeah.
So the idea from what, you know, this is a business that we never really had a precedent for.
Yep.
I remember my partner and I, 2 young children, went to the East Melbourne Library and I was like, I better take out a couple books on marketing because I had no idea. I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing here. I better learn what's going to happen. So quickly brushed up on marketing. I actually have a master's in landscape architecture, which is completely different to marketing. Obviously great if you want me to draw a set of plans for your garden. Great if you want me to, horrible if you want me to run a marketing agency. So brushed up on marketing. and then got a good idea of how it needed to roll out, but also needed to be quite unique and agile, because now the turnaround on media is so fast and so instantaneous that if you don't hit a trend and you're late to the trend, you look like a loser. If you hit the trend on the right wave, in the cusp of the wave, you're amazing. I mean, as you've probably seen with Very Demure, no one wants. If you're saying that this week, you're out. If you're saying that 2 weeks ago, you're the best.
Yeah.
So we understood that quite early, that the agility required was going to be paramount to the business. And also with short form videos, you can turn them around quite quickly. So earlier today, we were replicating a campsite on a park side next to the studio, because we needed to get that out ASAP for someone's Kickstarter.
Yep.
So at the start of the week, what happens is we'll have a whip, not uncommon to most other businesses, and we'll set out like, what are our clients' expectations? What do they want? So that ladders up to, we have numerous clients on retainer. I don't want to give them all away because maybe they want to say that they have their own, which is fair enough. And we have a set amount of videos that we deliver for them every month. We have certain talent that does each one. And then we'll just start from the start of the creative process. We'll have the concepting. They'll be like, let's sell this idea this month.
Yep.
And then from that idea, we'll have the scripts. We'll go back and go, here, these are the ideas. They'll go, cool, that's good. That then goes to pre-production. So it's actually quite a big setup. It's a full-on film studio. It's kind of been retrofitted into an old pizza shop.
Oh, cool.
Which makes sense because you needed taps, you needed gas, you needed commercial dishwashers, being a food and bev media agency. So that then turns into pre-production, which then turns into production, which then turns into post-production. So we've got numerous editors on site. We've got sound booths. We've got
full shebang.
Yeah, the full shebang. Yeah. And then it eventually goes out, and then hopefully it's turned around within a week.
Cool.
And then it's out. So that's usually a week for us. And in between all those times in that week, it's just absolute carnage.
Yeah,
so you don't know what's going to hit.
Yeah. What came first? Was it the coffee side of things, or was it the video production?
It was definitely the coffee side of things. But the coffee side of things, there was a moment where Rowan and I I think he was walking around Princess Park and I was walking down on the Yarra River, and we both called each other and we're looking at our phones and we're like, mate, we're not a roastery anymore.
What was that key moment that's like, okay, cool, this is where we're transitioning now, this is the direction of the business?
Yeah, I think it was probably about the fourth viral video.
Yeah.
When you really started to see the growth, and we got to a point where we superseded pretty much every single major roastery in Australia.
Wow.
So, and then around the world as well. And we were like, all right, well, this is, yeah. But it wasn't reflected in bean sales because, we were so fast on media and the growth that came with it that we were like, all right, this is where we need to focus, and this is where our superpowers kind of lie. So that's where we shifted the focus towards. That being said, we haven't alienated the coffee side of things. We still sell coffee. We sell coffee here in Australia and in the US. But is it the major part of our business? It's not anymore. But is it the proof point of the business? Yes, it is.
Yeah, okay.
So it's proof that videos work to help sell coffee. And if you think about how tough it is to enter the home coffee market or even just the coffee market in Melbourne, for what we've managed to shoehorn in is just insane in that time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, particularly in Melbourne, like that coffee scene, it is so renowned. What is it that, other than the content, what is it that you think sets you guys apart?
I think what we came with was a new approach to specialty coffee. Yeah. So we still made sure that the blends that we put out were specialty grade. So a lot of coffee roasteries, they're either one or the other. You got your mass market, like I'm not going to name names, and then you've got your specialty ones, and they hinge their whole identity on those two things. And then eventually what happens is the market catches up, and then all of a sudden that unique selling point of being specialty is no longer unique because everyone does it. Everyone's sustainable until, now everyone has to be sustainable. It's just a standard, yeah? Mm-hmm. So we pushed beyond the standards of what was around at the time and pushed on education and delivering it in the right way so that people felt at home when they were using the coffee because that was the coffee they saw in the videos. So you're like, I want to make my coffee look like that. If I buy that coffee and I use this machine, maybe I can get that result. And it wasn't without any hard work or anything like that. Rowan spent countless hours on the Instagram and the TikTok, on the DMs and on the comments, just commenting back to each other. And, there's still people now posting videos, oh my God, he commented back. And it's just like, grind finer.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. We had a chat with someone this morning and that's exactly what they were doing to go to that next level.
Yeah,
it's community engagement. It's huge.
Yeah, and she was saying her whole strategy, it didn't actually come from she was saying it didn't necessarily come from a strategic point of view, but it was just a way of I want to engage and I want to connect with the people that are showing me love. And she sends voice messages, voice notes through Instagram or TikTok or whatever it is to connect with people. So if someone kind of shares something and says, I've just used your product, oh my God, I love it, blah, 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 she'll send them a little voice note and be like, oh my God, thank you so much. That's so sweet. And yeah, it just goes back to that community engagement, building relationships.
That's taxing. That's a good job. That's great. What industry were they in?
Beauty.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. You need that human connection in beauty, I think.
Yeah, totally. I'm so interested to dive into kind of your content strategy as well, because obviously, like you said, that's kind of really propelled the business in both areas in terms of your agency, but also in terms of Golden Brown. So can you talk us through, do you have a strategy behind your content and marketing, or is it more just ad hoc, depending what's happening, depending what's trending?
Look, I'd be remiss to say that, Rowan, my business partner, is the creative director of the business. That's his part of the side of the story. But, there's so much that goes into it. It's that classic 200,000 jobs or hours, or I've done a million things and you only see the one thing at the end, and everyone thinks that's how easy it is to make everything. But what it is a core belief in education delivered in an entertaining way. And it's a bite-sized piece of content every single time. It's no more than that. It's not convoluted messages. It's not trying to fit your whole brand purpose, your whole brand message. You don't need to bombard someone with anything. And at the end of the day, every piece of content needs to be about you, not me. So if you're pushing content about me and you're telling me about your life story, then you're an influencer and you're probably a personal figure, or a community figure or something like that. Maybe you're going to become a politician or a beauty influencer. But if it's all about you, that's where we found the most engagement works, And it also comes back to the belief that if you're doing it for anybody but the viewer, they're not going to watch it, because where's the value in it? There's no value in it for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something that, again, Beth was talking about this morning, and something that we've spoken about a few times, is the thing that really can propel you, whether it be the content goes viral or just like the engagement that you get out of it. It is from that value that you're giving back to people. Yeah.
And look, there is also like a whole bunch of other templates that we have that sit underneath that. There's different categories that you can rush into. There's categories of humor. There's categories of latest trends. Recently there was a Doritos flavored coffee that came out.
I saw that.
Yeah. So we were quick on that. And as soon as it was released, within the next day, we produced a piss take on that. And it was, we put Doritos into the portafilter and outraged people, a million views. People are like, I hate you. I'm discontinuing following this thing. I know everyone else is like, wow, you got on the trend before anyone else.
Yeah.
So, there's that agility is a big part of it, but also there's, we've never really had to lean on sentiment or anything like that, or say any sob stories or anything. Most of it's just purely educational. And you find that a lot of the educational ones that we've made now, I would say, I don't know how many times I've filmed steaming milk, or we've put out videos about steaming milk, but it still just goes off every single time.
Yeah.
And then, you can then cross that across every single machine that you've seen. So everybody's got a different machine, different technique, different milk. So, it multiplies quite quickly the amount of content you can generate from that.
Yeah, for sure. Did you find that coffee side of the business really drove all the sales for that marketing side of the business? Was there that cross-pollination there?
Yeah, so it's a proof point, really. So and then what happens now is, because Golden Brown is an influencer in that space.
Yep.
Unfortunately, Rowan can't be here today because he's influencing.
Life of an influencer.
Yeah, it's tough. We were recently in Italy. We were flown over by a machine company, and he was even recognized there.
Oh, wow.
Poor bloke. Yeah. Imagine that. I was like, oof.
No days off.
Yeah, exactly. In Melbourne, it's even worse. You have people gawking at him and stuff like that. But yeah, so it is definitely a proof point, and it drives a lot of it. So what we did recently with La Mazzocco was their roaster in residency program, which was for the month of June. And so with every coffee machine they sold, they got a bag of our coffee that went out with it. And it's actually a 6-month subscription. So it was kind of like
cool.
Yeah, it was one of the selling factors. We did a big event there for Cafe Smart recently. So we raised over $5,000 not selling the coffee, but like donating all the coffee sales from that event, which is an amazing vibe. It's nice to give back every now and then. And then there's also more opportunities coming up with KitchenAid as well. And that was also through the coffee. So we were the official coffee for their new machine that's being launched as well. Wow. So yes, it's working in terms of a marketing side, and then also home brewers are using it. So, it's hard to say now where the disparity between the two is and how intertwined it is. And, if we had to turn off Golden Brown tomorrow, like, would I know exactly what would happen? Probably not straight away. But then if I had to turn the media side of things off, what would happen to the coffee company? These are questions that I have to ask myself once a week. And I'm like, what happens if this goes off? What happens if that goes off? And does it work without videos? And unfortunately, the answer for our whole company is always more videos.
Yeah.
Everything is always more videos. You guys are probably going through the same thing now.
Yeah. And with the agency or the media agency that you guys have, obviously you have quite a lot of clients you're doing this video content for. Is it all housed in-house? Like, do you have internal content creators? Is it stuff that you outsource to, like, user-generated content, like influencers? How does that work?
So the first part of the question, yes, we do it all internally. And the second part of the question, we are now starting to work with extra creators. We've kind of reached the maximum of what we can do in that space. We've got 4 custom built sets for different clients. We've got also sets that we can remove and have different slates for and have different backgrounds. And then we've also got the golden brown space. So we've kind of reached the maximum capacity there. And then also in terms of what we spoke about earlier, if I had to tell golden brown off, what would happen? We made a conscious decision earlier in the year to start outreaching towards coffee influencers or just even food media influencers as well, to start generating that community. So if we ever did need to get more people in, it was easier to get them in, and it was also easier for us to diversify the talent a bit more. So is it more important than ever to have as much as you possibly can? Yes, it is. The reach is no longer, we're trying to diversify the reach and, the delivery of that reach. So we're working with the company on an influencer program at the moment, and then that'll eventually become, hopefully, if everything goes to plan, a big part of our business as well. We'll be the go-to people for coffee influencers. Like, hey, what's your coffee influencer list? And we've worked with this person, we've worked with that person. This person does great UGC stuff. This person does very good aspirational stuff. This person does lifestyle stuff. So to get that directory built is going to take a long time. And unfortunately, I've tasked Liam, our podcast producer's partner, with that job. She's currently working in 4 different countries and even maybe technically 3 different languages. So
nice. We need to see that space. That sounds awesome.
I was just visualizing it.
Yeah,
it sounds sick.
As you're walking through it does sound good.
You need to come when there's a celebrity chef in. Because the food days when the celebrity chefs are in, it's just unreal.
Yeah, it's interesting because like when you started just on that there, it's like, cool, we're just going to focus on like coffee influencers. But now it's like you've nailed that process and you're starting to expand that net. So you can then reach out the foodies, like you said, then celebrity chefs. So it's interesting. I've heard it. I can't remember who said it, but someone said it where it's like go super niche and then open the net. And it sounds like that's what you're doing there in terms of your influencers.
That's exactly what we've done.
Yeah. And did you find this like refine the process, and then we're good to go?
Exactly. Yeah, you couldn't have nailed it anymore. And we were like, even within the niche, we found another niche. So, coffee's, it's niche, but how many billions of cups drank every day?
Yeah.
So it's not that niche, but then it's like home brewing and then specialty home brewing and then people focusing on latte art and then people like combing their coffee. We went really niche. We nailed that. We got all the tips and tricks out of it. We then expanded from that, from the very bottom with the beginner, grew with the beginner for the last 3 years. So they're now at an intermediate level. Also, people in cafes can understand it and enjoy it. Also, cafe owners and then roasteries also utilize the videos. And then that automatically just, rolls out into restaurants, that runs out into bars. So recently we were in Italy and we did some collab videos with a cocktail bar there that's been on my bucket list for years. I love that place in Milan, and it was just, and it was a pinch me moment where I was like, I can't believe this is happening right now. We're making videos with one of the best bars in the world, and they knew who Golden Brown was.
Yeah, it's huge.
Wow, that's huge. Talk us through, obviously, anyone scaling their business, there's challenges that you kind of come up against. Talk us through some of those challenges that you guys have faced over the last couple of years.
It's definitely the hardest part.
Yeah.
It's a relatively new industry, social media. It's still advertising at its core, but the turnaround times and also the amount of consumption and how quickly something is consumed doesn't require that level of depth anymore. So you can't really pull people from the advertising industry and you can't really pull people from social, because people from social, yes, they watch a lot of social media videos. They might be influencers in their own right. But to get that mix of someone that can actually deliver on both and sit right in the middle and understand core message, this is how to deliver it, needs a narrative, needs a story, needs a script, get it out. That's something that we're struggling with a little bit, and we're working that up. Unfortunately, there's a bit of a brain drain with us because Rowan, my business partner, has written like 10,000 scripts now, and so he's so good at it, and the speed in which he turns it around is just so fast that now whenever we get someone in to help, we're like, oh yeah, you can do that. And they're like, no, I can't. I'm not you. I don't have the 20 years of experience plus all those extra scripts that you've written. So that's been hard. And then also scaling the coffee has been quite hard. In the States in particular, we found it really hard. No boots on the ground to actually spread the message. Yes, we still sell coffee there. We're doing well. We did a promotion over there with Lamazocco as well for their roaster in residency, which was quite good for us. But, it's getting to that point where I need a sales rep. I need someone on the ground. But to train that person up, it's like, where do I find that person? It needs to be someone who's literate in social media because we need them to have a presence. Otherwise, it's just, who is this person that's just turned up at my door that's not part of Golden Brown?
Yep.
So I need to indoctrinate them into the social media profile. How much do you invest in that person? So there's all these different things that we've thought about. We've actually tried it with someone, and it went okay. Like he was a good authority figure, but Was he the right person for sales going forward? Probably not. So we kind of missed that boat. So, we have trialed these things and we will continue to grow. The team's grown quite a fair bit in the last year. It went from Rowan and I in his apartment to, what are we up to now, Liam? Probably about 10. I think there's about 8 or 10 rolling staff. Yeah. So
that's grown really quickly.
Yeah, it's grown really quickly. There's a lot of videos.
Yeah,
exactly.
How have you been able to maintain that consistency in the quality through like the media agency, but then also I guess the product?
Yeah, so the product, we have it in the office at all times. I drink it at home. I drink it there. We're constantly shipping coffee. So we've got friends that have got subscriptions. They'll tell us if anything's up. They'll be like, hey, the coffee's not quite right this month.
Yeah.
The amount of margin of error for the coffee, I would have thought would have been higher. It was at the start, obviously, because there's a lot of teething issues, people expecting miracles to happen because they're so rusted on with the brand at the start. They were like, oh, it's not tasting like, it doesn't look like that because your video said that.
Yep.
And then the realistic approach finally came through and people finally were like, all right, cool, let's look at it. This is what it really tastes like. So the coffee's going well. And then in terms of the media side of things, to get the quality right is through media. Like we have to pass it through like 4 sets of hands every single time. So usually it'll be our head of content, which is Katie. She'll be the first person. Then it'll go up to Rowan. Then it'll go to the client. Then usually it'll come back. And more often than not, it's out straight away. But it's quite a few sets of hands for one social media video that may get 200 views.
Yeah. I guess that's why the product is so good. And is that process that you just mentioned then, was that being done with the coffee side of the business and then that was refined there and then it's rolled out to everything else?
It's probably that marketing book.
What
The marketing book that I got from the library early on.
Yeah.
No, Rowan's got the processes from back in his advertising days.
Yeah, okay.
I had them in my own business ways as well. So we knew that things had to pass quite a few different stages to get to where it needed to get to. But also we needed to find the minimum effective dose where we weren't wasting too many people's time. This, as I said before, it all hinges on the fact that it is 30 seconds and it is gone tomorrow. So be realistic.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, yes, quality 100%, but every time it's going back and forth, profitability is decreasing every time.
Yeah, and look, it's a never-ending monster. It just needs quantity. Like so many people are getting through just on quantity alone.
Yeah. Are you finding a bit of a latency effect in terms of content that you've created a couple of months ago is starting to pick up again, or it's kind of just the reason I'm asking is we had a conversation again with one of our other guests this morning, and she was saying that content that she was creating today or yesterday might get 200-300 views, but then content that she's created like 6 weeks ago is really starting to pick up, and it's like starting to fall into the algorithm. Or she's there's content that she created last year around the AFL Grand Final, and it's starting to see kind of growth again.
Yeah,
12
definitely.
months later.
Yeah, we do, especially on YouTube. So YouTube's kind of the slow burn. You won't look at it for a while, and then all of a sudden, you're like, whoa, what happened there? But what? That was amazing. We had one where Rowan created a song about it was a capybara song that was very popular at the time, and he turned it cappuccino. It was fine. It got a couple hundred, maybe not a couple 100,000. Maybe it was about a couple 100,000 views, and then like a month or so later, it just popped off in Greece.
Oh, no way.
And there was just all these Greek men just going, cappuccino. just constantly being tagged in all these videos of Greek guys singing that song. And who knows how it got to Greece or why it got to Greece, but it hit.
Yeah.
The algorithm does weird and wonderful things.
It does.
Just ends up in weird places. It's interesting. You've mentioned your business partner a couple of times now. Do you find that you really segment roles that you're both doing in the business, or is it?
Yeah, we have to.
Run us through how that works.
Yeah, we have to. So he's the creative director, and we've now got a business card each where he's just the coffee guy and I'm the other guy. and it's like we set those roles up quite early.
Yep.
We were quite structured and quite strategic about the whole role. And so we didn't want to overlap because it was a waste, because there's only 2 of you. Yeah. Especially at the start. You're like, why would we try and overlap? You'd QC things definitely. You'd be like, I'm doing this, you're doing that. All right, let's quickly touch base. It's getting a little bit messier now because we've now introduced more staff. So in terms of managing staff, it's like, well, is that yours? Is she yours, or is he yours, or where's that lying? But in terms of the roles, he's the creative director, and then I do pretty much absolutely everything else. So operations, employment, HR, safety, wages, all that sort of stuff. So, and then growth, and then just whatever else you can think of. You guys have both got businesses. You know what it's like. Yeah. You're just constantly picking up pieces. You're like, all right, now it's time to pay that tax bill.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it. Tax bills.
So in terms of obviously you guys have said was 2 and now you've kind of grown up to that sort of like 10 people. What does your org chart look like? And are you kind of pulling people in based on need, or are you able to sort of forecast where areas of the business might be growing and bringing people in preemptively?
It was need primarily at the start.
Yeah.
Obviously, with more and more videos being made, editors were first. Mm-hmm. And then eventually it got to a point where at the start, I learned how to use a camera. I was filming Rowan. Rowan was editing. It then went from, we got an editor on. I was filming. Rowan was on camera. We had an editor, and then I was growing the business. And then now we've got 2 editors, 2 cinematographers, Liam, who's in charge of the podcast, and we've also got Katie, who's in charge of socials. Then we've got a junior copywriter on, and then we've got a couple of other freelancers that come in and help out. So it was needs, and then now we've kind of gone on the front foot with the podcast, and we've got someone in, and we've gone, all right, cool, we're going to work this out and make this properly. Like, we're going to work this out properly and do it properly and hire properly for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. And talk us through the podcast. How's that going? And what kind of encouraged that idea?
The podcast is actually amazing. It's one of those things that I never thought. 2 years ago, if you'd asked me if you listen to a podcast, I'd be like, shut up. And now I'm obsessed with them, and I'm constantly listening to them. And much to my partner's dismay, I'm falling asleep with my earbuds in my head at night, and she's just like, what are you listening to right now? And this Scott Galloway's voice is pounding out of it. Just like, fuck, stop. The podcast itself is going really good. I didn't realize how much of a mechanism it would be to meet people. I didn't actually understand that it's also valuable for you as a host or as a producer, and how much of a networking device it is. So I didn't realize all these other extra benefits of it. At first, I was just thinking it was like a self-gratifying thing where you're like, look at me, I've got this friend and this friend. And then I was like, oh, actually, wait until you see how this permeates out. Yeah. And then me I'm always quite business-minded with these sort of things and looking to venture and where we can capitalize on these things and who we can meet. It's completely snowballed for me. And now I'm like, how do we reach in? How do we get this person in? How do I get that person in? And it's such a polite and nice way of introducing yourself to someone. Say, hey, can I have your time for an hour and get to know you?
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy, isn't it? It's just like a nice way to do it instead of like, hey, let's go out for dinner, and it's kind of awkward at the start. It's just like you go straight into it.
Yeah, just talk about beginning to end, the whole like life cycle of yourself, essentially.
Yeah, it's a pretty in-depth way to get to know each other. But then the podcast itself is going really well. We've just signed a sponsor. Yep. And, once again, similar to the coffee thing, we're building from the niche up. Mm-hmm. So, that's awesome. Yeah. So the sponsor is a recyclable or eco-minded packaging company that specializes in coffee.
There you go. Yeah. How's that for a niche?
Yeah, it's niche. But I think the most promising thing for us was one of the directors when we had the meeting was like, if we could create a podcast, this is the podcast we'd create. Mm-hmm. So it's a nice thing for someone to say. And that's why when I first had discussions with them about coming on as a sponsor, I was like, I knew they were the perfect sponsor. So I was like, all right, I'm going to hold out. I'm not going to try and catch someone else because I don't think it's the right thing. Yeah. Also, where else are they going to advertise? It is the best spot for them to advertise. Cafe owners and roasters are listening to it. They're the people that are eventually going to buy your product. It doesn't need to be broadcast across everyone else.
Yeah, for sure. And we've spoken about the space that you fitted out and all of the staff and the growth and how you've grown to the amount of staff that you've got. Did you do that organically? Was there external investment? Did you go to a bank for funding? How did that all play out from the finance side of things?
Luckily, Rowan got paid so much money back in the day that he was fine. He didn't need to work. And I had a supplementary business that I'd started with my partner. So we were both bankrolled in terms of our own lives. So financially, we were set. So we didn't have to worry about it. There was no stress. We had an agreement at the start where we said 2 years, don't worry about it. No money comes out. Just keeps going back in, just keeps rolling. Yeah. So we had that safety net. Mm-hmm. He also had his purse or whatever you want to call it. And I had my business still making money on the side. So I was totally fine as well.
What was your business on the side?
So I'm actually a bit of a pig, so I can't help myself. So we've got a furniture manufacturing arm to a business that we've got, and an import arm as well for that furniture business. Mm-hmm. So back in the day, before my partner and I had children, we decided to quickly run over to Europe, flaunt around a few different antique fairs, and drive around Scandinavia and get as much secondhand vintage furniture as we could.
Sick.
Boxed it all up, shipped it across. And now she runs that business by herself. I set it up the way I set it up was I have external couriers that move everything. I've streamlined all the shipping lines. I've also consolidated upon all of the suppliers from all of the different parts of Europe that we had. Mm-hmm. So a lot of it's pretty badly like Google translated. A lot of it's via WhatsApp, looking at photos, how much, thumbs up, thumbs down, this, make it less. So we've had some amazing feats along the way. I managed to get a close to 3 meter tall solid brass and marble lamp that was made in the 1960s, shipped from Naples to Denmark to Melbourne.
Wow.
Unbelievable. This thing, unbelievable.
Yeah.
It was like, I loved it. I was like, this thing has to cost an absolute fortune. I was like, there's no way someone's going to buy this. I don't want anyone to buy this. This has to sit in the showroom and just looks amazing. The first time someone of any decent wealth walks in, bought it straight away.
Wow. What's that business called?
It's called CCSS. So it's an amalgamation of my partner and my initials. So it's it's very stylish furniture.
Yeah.
We've now got a couple of core pieces in the range that are really quite successful. We've had a lamp that was so successful that it's now on AliExpress. It's been copied all around the world. It hurts my feelings a lot when I see it. I saw it in a fashion store in London recently, and the replica, not the real one, absolutely killed me. I was just like, if you're trying to be a boutique fashion agency, why don't you buy the real thing? Why are you buying the dodgy knockoff?
Yeah.
But yeah, the lamps ended up in some funny places. So I think one even ended up at Michael Clark's house, the cricketer.
No way.
He sent it back.
Did he actually?
He never saw it, and the interior designer inspected it, and he goes, "This is horrendous. Send it back."
I've just Googled it. That stuff looks awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's beautiful.
Any listeners, it's ccss.shop.
That's right. Yeah.
Free plug. There you go.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Well, call Claire. She'll do your deal.
There you go.
Yeah. How do you go manage? Obviously, you've got a few different businesses on the go. How do you go managing that, staying on top of it?
I put up hard
balance.
walls. Yeah. So I put up seriously hard walls. I've also got 2 young kids, which are kind of they're paramount to me. That's my life. Yeah. As soon as it hits 5 o'clock, I leave. I'm like, I will stay when I have to stay, but I have to go home. I have to see my kids. I have to have at least a quality hour with both of them. I'll be like last night I was up playing Is It Cake with some Play-Doh. And kids love it. It's amazing. I'm walking around with my kids on my shoulders playing Pokemon Go. It's painful, but I have to do it because that's my responsibility. That's the thing that I chose to do. And that applies to everything across my life. It's my responsibility. I commit to stuff and I'll see it out. With multiple businesses and then also multiple core relationships in your life, you just have to be really, really rude at times. You just have to be like, I'm not going to see this person. I'm not going to go to that birthday party. I'm going to spend my time with this person. And then catching up with friends and stuff like that, instead of just catching up with them all the time, it's like, no, I'm going to see you for quality time.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like that's kind of the best way to be about it. It's like I commit all in on one thing at one time.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people will probably disagree with that and be like, I see you staring at your phone all the time. But we're all guilty of that.
Yeah. Into that.
Yeah. I mean, we've spoken about it heaps in terms of setting boundaries and how difficult it can be, particularly obviously when you're running the business, you're so passionate about what you're doing, but it's so important to, whether it be setting boundaries so you're spending quality time with your kids, so you're there for like bed, bath and dinner, or whether it's that you're having, date night once a week with your partner or whatever it is. And then when you are online and when you are doing your work, that you're totally in that world for that 8-hour period or whatever that kind of time frame looks like. But it can be so hard. Yeah.
And I found a few of the challenges that I'm facing now is with all the new staff, I want to be able to give them the same amount of time. And I want to, Rowan and I have a big sort of a drive to make sure that everyone that works with us takes something out of it. We don't want them to just come in, plug and play, get out, don't talk about it, don't think about it. And 2 years from now, they'll forget about it. We want them to come in and be like, wow, those 2 years that I had with those guys, I learned so much. They inspired me to do this. They inspired me to try something different. They also let me do that. We've got a big part of the business where we're like, guys, challenge yourselves. We don't care what it is. Stuff it up. I'd rather you shoot for the stars and stuff it up than shoot for nothing and miss it. I'd be so upset. It's like, what's the point? Like low-hanging fruit's pointless here. We're trying to challenge you guys. It's also social media videos. Like, who cares if you miss one?
Yeah.
You're going to miss one. Just don't do anything naughty. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Don't say anything bad. You'll be okay. Don't get cancelled.
The social media side of things, are you guys looking at data when you're making these decisions?
Yep. Yeah. Data, I mean, it's hard not to because the numbers are so prevalent. They're so easily attained. Do you guys use Metricool as well?
We don't use Metricool. We've got a similar sort of thing.
Yeah. So nowadays with ChatGPT and Metricool, it's so easy to get the data that you need. You feed your data into ChatGPT. What were the best performing videos? What were the best performing whatever. What was the best hook? What was this? Here it is. Do
you want to just walk us through that for the listeners, what Metricool is and how that works?
Yeah, probably should. Everyone uses Metricool.
Come on, guys, you don't know.
So It's essentially a social media managing app. So you key your Facebook, your TikTok, your YouTube, everything into it. And what happens is it'll upload the content for you, and then it'll also manage all the data for you. So for us, when we've got multiple clients on our retainers, whenever they need reports, we type into Metrical the month, whatever it needs to be, or the time frame, and then we extrapolate all that data. And then what we do is we then feed it into ChatGPT to extrapolate the data and make it readable and legible, because the amount of data it pulls is too much. And
yes, heaps.
Who wants to be a data analyst for social media videos?
Yeah.
Like it's unnecessary. So you get AI to do it, and you pull out the videos that are successful, and it's simple as that. And it's also, no one should be sitting there scrolling through videos going, all right, that one hit, that one didn't hit, when you can just pull it straight out. It saves you a lot of time, and it's also very, very, what's the nicest way to say it? It's very informative in terms of what we need to do next. A lot of it comes down to trend forecasting and knowing what's going to hit and what's going to become the next thing that we're going to focus on. Mm-hmm. But also, why would you not look at the past and see what's already hit? So you can turn a video from a one-hit wonder to a full series. And a lot of the most successful creators have all got big off a big series. I don't know how far or how deep you are in the food series at all. Like, there was this one English guy who did All Things Butter. And his whole series.
I follow that guy.
Thomas Straker.
Yeah, he's
amazing. Great.
Great.
And his restaurant's now booked out 6 months in advance pretty much.
Crazy.
And what did he do? All Things Butter. Welcome back to All Things Butter.
His voice is so satisfying as well. It's like calming. It's
So you know what I mean? So you can use those things to inspire series and more content, because at the end of the day, you will run out of content. Not that you should, but you will. So why wouldn't you consolidate on something that's already hitting and just keep one-upping that?
And I guess to kind of dive into that a little bit more and give people a little bit more context in terms of analysing that data and what kind of metrics you're looking at, how do you guys determine what's successful? What are you looking at?
Yeah, so there's views. Views don't lie, There's likes, shares, comments. What do you've got to decide from your point of view what you want out of it. Do you want people to share the content? Because if you want people to share the content, that's amazing. And, you'll get more and more people looking at it, easy ways. There's easy levers to pull for that. And then do you want content that'll get follows? So a lot of the times what we're looking for is videos that have new followers on it. So you can, so I spoke to you guys recently about a video I did for my own personal TikTok. I got 5,000 followers from that one video. It's amazing, And then, obviously that's just a one-off for me, but for other clients, we've had a particular client that went from 0 to, I think they're up to 12,000 on TikTok already in 5 months' time.
Wow.
And so we know exactly which videos were the ones that propelled them forward. So they're the ones we're amplifying at the moment, because we're trying to grow their viewership more than anything else.
That's awesome. And I think when we're talking to, people in the Inflection community and those sorts of things, one of the things that we are kind of talking about quite a lot is that content creation and just giving it a go and just getting in front of the camera and just going for it. Do you have any kind of tips for anyone that hasn't done it before, how to get comfortable or,
Yeah, start by start with not using your face. Just go all hands and just go pure content. Because if you try, unless you're already the face of the brand, we started with no face. We started with pure hands only, and so it was just pure content, pure educational content. All you could see was Rowan's hands making a coffee and a narration over the top. Do this step, then do this step, then do this step. If that content's strong enough and good enough, you'll know straight away, yeah? Because you're not relying on you. You're not relying on people to recognize you. You're not relying on people to like you for you. You're just going purely for the content. That's one avenue. And then the other avenue is be vulnerable. Be yourself, be vulnerable, because that's what people love. People don't want to see someone sitting at the top unless you're, there's a few out there that are, like Max Riedel, for instance, the son of the Riedel fortune. Have you seen his Instagram or TikTok?
No.
It's unreal. It's unreal. It's just watching the richest guy, one of the rich people, just having a great time.
Yeah.
And for some people it's worth watching, but he's the exception. He's not the rule.
Yeah.
So give as much of yourself as you want to, but then also you've got to be self-aware of what what guardrails you need to put in and what sort of block you need to put in front of your face. Because, say for instance, we met with quite a prolific coffee creator in the UK recently, and one of the main questions that we asked him was how do you hide your life? Where do you hide from? Because you've got 2 million subscribers on YouTube, you've got X amount of followers, you've got this and that. And I'm looking at it from a protective lens for Rowan. I'm like, look, man, you want to probably start a family soon. You want to live your life. How much longer can you do this? You need to talk to other people that are going through the same situation. Because the content creator that we met, he was like, I protect my life. I've totally disconnected. He has 3 different emails before it gets to him.
Wow.
So it'll be an assistant, then another assistant, and then it'll be him. And it'll be like, yes, I'll meet you. And then it's like a location will meet you somewhere else and all that sort of stuff because he doesn't want anyone to meet his kids, which I respect, So that's something you need to be aware of.
So I guess just going back to the coffee side of things and Golden Brown, do you guys work with international and domestic suppliers? How does that kind of work?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, it's oh man. So I had this grand scheme that I was going to create a coffee program that was going to be the exact same coffee anywhere in the world. It's like we have Brazilian coffee in Australia. Why can't I have Brazilian coffee in America? To get that Brazilian coffee to America was about a year. It took me about a year to sort that out.
Wow.
Yeah. And luckily I had all the experience from the furniture side of things in terms of shipping, freight forwarding, all that sort of stuff. I knew what something was worth because a lot of people when it comes to freight forwarding and shipping lines, they'll try and pull the wool over your eyes and be like, it's cost this much, it costs that much. They'll be like, you're a newbie, you don't know, we're going to take you for a ride. So luckily I did have that lens and I was able to just be like, all right, cool, that's not right. That doesn't work. So I then was like, all right, we're going to have coffee from everywhere in the world and it's going to be all exactly the same everywhere at the same time. It took me one coffee and I was like, nah, I'm done. Because what happens is it's all tied up with different distributors and you can't get the exact same coffee in the exact same part of the world. And then also it costs different amount of money into different places. What I recently learned was in the UK, it's actually the best bang for buck if you want to be a roaster. So you're buying with the pound and then you're also selling with the pound. And so your money goes further when you're buying it. And then when you're selling it, the money's more expensive as well.
Yeah.
In Australia, you're so far away and you're buying with the Australian dollar. It's actually terrible. It's actually, I don't know how people do it. I look at people and I look at roasters and I'm like, how do you put yourself through this stress? Like a couple of years ago when what happened was there was a massive drought in Brazil. Production was down and commodity grade coffee started coming up and there was actually a point where specialty coffee, well, this is very loose and this isn't exact terms, but specialty coffee almost cost less than commodity because the demand for commodity got so high because people were like, we can't afford specialty. How does that work?
Yeah.
So the lower grade one was almost higher in price. And then so that's the coffee side of things. And then we also deal with packaging companies and you have to buy stuff in China and it has to go around the world. There's like import fees and all that sort of stuff that you have to learn to negate. And then with the media side of things, it's a wild world out there. It's you name your price pretty much these days. So some of the money that some of these influencers are asking when you're talking to them, you're just like, wow, holy moly. It's like, not that I'm telling anyone to become an influencer or not that I want to become an influencer, but some of the prices are just insane. So trying to manage that and also understand how it works. And obviously we're in Australia, we're in a smaller market, reach is different. Then you talk to a US creator and they're like, it's X amount of money. You're like, what? Who can afford that? Like what brands can actually afford that? So that's been an eye-opening experience for us as well in that regard.
Yeah. And then in terms of, I guess, freight and like, I guess your global supply chains, have you seen any disruptions in that over the last couple of years?
Yeah, there was. Obviously, COVID was a big one.
Yeah.
I think that hit everybody.
Of course.
I did exploit that with the furniture side of things in that business, which is good. I had secure trade lines, and because we weren't producing pre-manufactured furniture, it was vintage furniture. I had someone set up that was sourcing it for me and sending it across during COVID. So COVID for us, like a lot of other retailers, was an absolute boom. But because people couldn't get stock and everyone was trying to buy new, they were like, it was going to take you what would usually be like a 6 to 8 week turnaround for people to buy stuff. They were getting it manufactured. Could even be 12 weeks. Turned into 2 years. And so everyone was desperate to buy furniture and they kept buying it from us because we'd managed to exploit it because our lines were so secure that we'd managed to get it all through and we weren't waiting on manufacturing. But then with the coffee side of things, it's, it all comes down to political agendas. There's different things going on at any time in the world. So you totally succumb to everything and you've got no control whatsoever. You just go, all right, you'll get the report from the importer and it'll be like, it costs this much this month. And you're like, all right, well, I guess I'm not making money on that one.
Yeah. What were some of the key lessons that you learned from that furniture business that you've been able to transition to the coffee side of things and the marketing agency?
It's all about the execution. Yep. It's all about execution. So the product itself has to be amazing. That's a non-negotiable, but it's the execution and the delivery. So with that furniture business, we were hiring like amazing Airbnbs. I was loading up budget vans by myself, driving them around, like pulling apart the Airbnbs, fitting them back out, making videos in there. One of the videographers we have now, even one of the editors, they were young kids at the time. And I was like, all right, we need to make videos. I got them in. and they're now working for us with the coffee/media business as well. So it's all about execution and delivering on that aspirational value as well. Obviously, with Golden Brown, we're here to teach you, but at the end of the pour or at the end of everything, it's a beautifully crafted coffee. Yeah, it's not just like, hey, and then you get this, and it's just like a pile of mud. It's actually like it's still aspirational to a certain degree, and I think a lot of it has to come down to the aspiration, but how you get to that aspirational point. And I think that's one of those things that we found with the furniture side of things. So we also gave people a lot of information on how to style things, how to fit things out, what looks good in a room, what looks good next to each other. And that was usually Claire, because she was the mouthpiece. She's the one that's actually sitting there in the showroom talking to people. Check out this swatch. Check out that swatch. This would look amazing. That texture's great.
I guess going back to that providing value to people.
Yeah, and a value that's not built into the price, unfortunately, because some people can really exploit it and they'll sit there for 4 hours and ask you to design their whole house, and just what it is.
Awesome. I mean, in terms of some of those challenges that you spoke about a little bit earlier as well, is there anyone in particular that you would say is like the biggest kind of lesson or the biggest like blessing in disguise?
Oh, man, so many. So many. No, I think one of the main things that Rowan and I did at the start was when we were looking for a place to shoot, we were like, oh, shit, we need a studio. Oh, Rowan's looking for a new apartment at the same time. We decided just to rent a really luxe apartment. Okay. And that became the studio and his house and the office. Poor bloke was living the business there for a while. But because we turned that into, and then we used that lesson to then be like, all right, cool, we now need a studio. We need an office. So we started looking at studio and office spaces, and they were like, you know what office spaces are like. They're big, they're hollow, and then there's not much to it. And we were like, well, wait, we're a food and media bev company. What are we doing? So then we shifted the focus and started looking at hospitality venues. And hospitality venues at the time, there was one coming up for lease every second day.
Yeah.
And so we found one and we were like, all right, well, that fits the brief. And then so we turned that problem into a solution. And so now we've got an old pizza shop. And the pizza shop has now become the name of the business. So it's going to be Pizza Shop Media.
Oh, nice.
Which, Rowan and I, we both laugh about the fact that, in 5 years' time, when we're no longer in a pizza shop, when we're in a warehouse. We're like, why is it called Pizza Shop? You're in a warehouse.
So if you could sit down for a cup of coffee with any historical or fictional character, who would it be and why? And what would you talk about?
Okay, yeah. So this is actually quite an easy one for me. I'm, as my name would suggest, I'm Sonam Sherpa. Sherpa being of origin from Nepal. I was born in Nepal. My father's family side is from the Everest region. And I guess for that reason, I'd probably have to go with, Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay. I'd go the two of them. You'd hang out with both of them. And, I think there's so many things in this life that are no longer the first. They were the first people to go to the top of Everest. That's just such an interesting conversation. It's like there was no well-worn path. The risks, now it's like as common as it can get. Yeah. Now it's like a line to get up there.
Literally a line.
Yeah, there's a line. There's people dying, waiting in line. Whereas back in the day, they did it before anyone else. And my partner's actually a Kiwi, and every time I'm in New Zealand, we're going for hikes, we're doing all these things, and our parents are just so happy to tell everyone, there's a Sherpa here. And so that one's for me is quite easy. And, I just want to chat to them about, where does that blind ambition come in? You know what I mean? Like, and how the hell did he get there? Like, New Zealand's so far away. It would have taken him so long to get there. There's so many logistical feats to it. I love logistics. To be able to get up there and have a coffee with them and talk about it and talk about how did you even meet, and who actually got there first.
Yep. Nice. Awesome. I like it. Well, thanks so much for coming on. It was really nice to have a chat with you and hear about Golden Brown and Pizza Media.
and free plug again, ccss.shop. Any vintage furniture, get on it. I'm on it now. You'll see it after. Fantastic.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. I also really appreciate you letting me come in and pick your brains about podcasting and where it's at and where it's going. And I'm really excited to see where your next space is going to be as well.
Yep.
Awesome. You're welcome to ask as many questions as you like.
Yeah.
I will. That's the only way to get ahead.
Amen to that.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
Thanks for watching this video on the Rask Network. While you're here, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can get videos each and every day on business, finance, investing, and so much more.